don't know.
And listen, on the speaker, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The sound, the music input for my show. Not this one. Let me just play that little puppy out.
Yeah, we could probably do that. 417-717-1454. Try to get on. Haven't been too far today. Watched a little basketball, and then I watched a little football, and I thought it was Sunday. It seemed like a Sunday. Basketball on, we had all kinds of football on. I go, must be Sunday, and I guess I lost half a day somewhere.
It happens.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, we're back to Saturday.
So a little bit of my Dread
Saturday.
Love intro that I composed going in underneath all of this on the Spreaker side. And again, you can join, you're listening to the Roundhouse Power Hour on both netrootsradio.com and Team Netroots on Spreaker.com. And if you're listening to, you can hear us on the TuneIn app, Netroots Radio. And if you have a mind, you can go to our homepage, our website, www.netrootsradio.com, and scroll to the bottom, and you will find at the bottom a link to our chat room.
Yes.
And click it, join us. I am no longer capable of multitasking, but join us. There will be people. There will be at least 2 people in the chat room, like Rick and Ricky from Kazakhstan. Yeah. And on the other side of the page, just directly across the street from the chat room link, is our Patreon link. And you should, and if you're really loving not just the show, but all of the shows, including my intermittent podcast, which will be coming back in a week. Go and click on that link and become a patron of netrootsradio.com, because the awesome people who keep us on the air, Apache on the San Carlos Apache Reservation in Arizona, and Sunscreen in London, they need the bucks. They are the only people who are getting paid. They are the guys that keep us up and running.
Okay.
And they are awesomest people in the world. So
that's
about all I can say. And become a and just, who knows, become a patron, have a recurring donation, and who knows, you might get something from us. We haven't quite decided what that's going to be, but it might be something.
Well, we can always pass along a bumper sticker or something, but yeah.
But you're presuming that everybody who becomes a Patreon has a car.
Well, true. Yeah, there may not be some cars.
So I have a Zazzle account, so I'm looking at stuff, creating some specialty stuff on my Zazzle account that will
give us
be a thank you. Thank you, swag. Thank you, swag.
Yeah.
Maybe a netrootsradio.com notebook.
Oh, yeah.
There's some pretty cool things there that, we could always
whip up, I guess.
Swag out. Swag your
I think
swig your swag.
There's a T-shirt company here too that we can set up with. Maybe we'll do some T-shirts.
Well, I'm into more functional things like notebooks that people can actually write in and takes.
All right. Okay. That's always there's something there. Always something there. That's for sure. 417-717-1454. That's how you get on here.
Or you can Skype us at netroots.radio. That too.
Get all the chat here, but there's nothing working here tonight. It's just one of those.
Nothing is
this
ever.
This is like a 48-hour day today.
Wink. Nothing on your end. Nothing is ever working.
True. That is a fact.
So I had an awesomest day at work
today, but holy cow!
I had a great day at work. Made up for my pathetic Sunday last week. It was so bad. You've had a bad week when you've gone from being one of the top 3 on your team to we get depending on our sales. I'm a vendor's representative for a major computer manufacturer, part time. So in our weekly meetings we have these little this is how well everybody did, and if you've got like a green bar going across your sales numbers, you did really good. And if you have a red one, you need more coffee.
Yeah.
Last week, for the very first time, I was in the red zone. I
There
was
you
in
go.
the red. I did not like that. Today, I just don't know what happened, but I sold. But I did really well. I actually sold more accessories to the computers
Yeah.
than computers.
Yeah. That's the way it should go anyway. Yeah, without a doubt. You know, you got to sell those accessories. That's what makes this sizzle or whatever. It keeps some things
Yeah,
going.
printer with your. Would you like a printer to go with that computer?
You would, because you're eventually going to have to print stuff out. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I was
yeah,
one lovely woman. I happen to work weekends at the Best Buy at 86th and Lexington, which is right across the park from me, and it's that store. I've been in a few of the Best Buys, but that store has the best people working there.
there you go.
The management is great, and the customers who come in are really awesome. They're great. There's some people that you just want to like get them talking to somebody else. Last week there was a gentleman who was in, and it turned out that um, he has a friend who worked with my father at the Lawrence Livermore Laboratory back in the late 1950s, early 1960s. Because he mentioned that I said my dad worked at the Lawrence Livermore Labs. And he was this, he was talking about his friend who said, well, he worked at the Lawrence Lab with Edward Teller. I went, oh, my father did too. So
Yeah,
and then I had to palm him off on the poor people who were representing Beats headphones
yeah, yeah,
because it was just like, oh no, I just it was like, oh, I just can't handle this, oh New York,
yeah.
oh New York.
But the thing is, you can basically take the shortcut through the park to work. So
When the weather is great, it's a great walk.
yep,
It's a really lovely walk from where I live through the park. I walk past up through the by the reservoir.
yep.
And I use a
Straight
meerkat.
over to Lexington. Yeah,
Um,
unplugged. Okay, there we go.
so I have this. There's a couple of Twitter video apps, streaming video apps. One is called Periscope, and the other is called Meerkat. And I use Meerkat more than Periscope. So when I'm walking through the park, um, I have that particular app turned on, and I do like a walking tour
Yeah,
through
yeah,
Central Park from west to east,
yep,
and I stop and talk to random people there because it's a lot of fun. I explain to the people that what I'm doing, and we're talking, and it's just a conversation about what they're doing. Did one in a Starbucks, and several of the people that were watching and listening in were more wanted to have wanted to hear more from the really cute guy across the table from me.
yeah.
So we talked, and it was a lot of fun. It was really great.
Good stuff. All kinds of apps out there you can use to beef up and bulk up your iPhone and or Droid and or whatever you got
Yeah,
there
I
for
mean
speaking,
these are these
smartphone.
if you like just doing like on the fly little video casts, these are
Perfect.
great.
Yeah, they are
I
great.
follow and watch. There's a guy from Hong Kong who he's always streaming, and he has mindfulness walks and stuff like that, and he's great. And there's a lot of really fascinating people on both applications. So you've got this really great um, selection of very interesting people. A screenwriter by the name of Julie Bush. She does a Periscope every evening, talking about different subjects. The bitch is getting ready for bed, but it's just before she does, and she's talking about what it's like to be a screenwriter and working and a woman in Hollywood, and and just talking about stuff, and it's a lot of fun and interesting.
As far as I'm concerned, anyway. I mean, it's all audio and video today, so with YouTube and everything else. So why not take advantage of that? There's a lot of apps out there that are basically free, and you can post up your own little video kind of thing going on there. Let your friends and neighbors know, and then it can get to go viral if it's anything worthwhile looking at. So there you go, one of those deals. Next thing you know, you'll be on what's that America's Funniest Home Videos or I don't know, one of those shows. I don't know, whatever the hell it is. If they're still on the air, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's still on the air. Some of the videos that I watch on that, it looks like they're when you're watching them,
yeah,
and it's like seeing somebody take a header off a trampoline or something like that. I am more worried about the fact that those people hurt.
yeah.
No, seriously, because
Indeed.
I used to. I was in gymnastics and acrobatics, and I was fairly good on a trampoline, and I could do flips and all of that stuff. I never fell off, but I did go off a stage.
Yep.
And I have gone off of bicycles. I have, and I would like to see these people, get up, especially, it's like I always cringe when it's like, ha ha ha, baby fell down. Isn't that funny? It's like, no, is that kid okay?
Yeah, any trauma there? Yeah.
Well, everything is traumatic, and you can't, protect you can't, if you are so, all this nonsense on the campuses right now is because both sides, conservative and liberal children, have been sheltered from the world. So every little thing offends on both sides.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they got to learn to deal. You don't pitch a fit because you don't get your way. That's the way of the world. You don't always get your way. You have to. I think both sides, and a lot of times on both sides, with you saying, "Well, we're saying these words, blah blah blah." They never heard the word. The conservative kids who like using, who can't understand why certain pejoratives are not are not permitted for them to say. They want to say them because they've never been told no until that moment, and they don't understand the word no. That's not okay. Just like college kids on the left, it's the same thing, but they have never been told no either, for whatever. Both sides are sheltered and spoiled.
Yeah, they pretty much get anything they want.
And I grew up in not quite Whitelandia. I grew up in a what here in on the east would be called a bedroom community.
Yeah.
In California, and I did not have a lot of interaction with Latinos,
Yeah.
And other people of color because it's just where I grew up. Now, that's not to say that there weren't, my school, I mean, when I was in first grade, I was probably the only kid with dark skin in the entire class and in the entire school. Seriously. And as I grew, and I didn't see,
yeah.
And I didn't have any black classmates until I got into high school.
Right.
But I wasn't sheltered. But I wasn't sheltered. I was. There are some words I never heard. Seriously, that I never heard till I moved to New York. Seriously, there were some impolite words about various ethnic groups that I never heard until I moved to New York.
Well, you're going to hear it all in New York, no doubt about it. But
okay, California is a conservative state. I mean, it's more than just Los Angeles and San Francisco and Berkeley. It is conservative. It always has been. And the first time I ever heard the N-word was from out of the mouth of a elderly Chinese woman as I was walking up Stockton Street past Union Square, and it began to rain, and I looked up, and this was like 1980 or so. And I looked up as it was raining, and we passed by, and she hissed at me and called me a white N-word. What she said to me was, quote, "Don't you laugh at me, you white N-word."
Yep.
Unquote. And it is the only time I've ever been stopped dead in my tracks. And it was the only time somebody other than a black person, an African American. Well, when I was in college, it was a black guy who was asking me if I was passing for white. But until that woman spat that out at me, nobody else ever had that thought that of me, as far as I know. But it was still rather shocking. Then I come to, the liberal, what is allegedly the liberal progressive bastion of the East of America, New York City. And I'm hearing that word coming out of the mouth of an adult who should freaking know better.
Yeah, New York City even is not as liberal as it.
It's very conservative. New York, the Orthodox Hasidic Jews support evangelicals, and they're more likely to vote Republican because they are perceived as being far more supportive of the state of Israel than people on the left.
Right.
They don't give a shit that Netanyahu essentially bribed a sitting representative to try and put a monkey wrench into the nuclear disarmament treaty between 6 nations, including the United States, and Iran. They don't seem to have. If Bernie Sanders had done a political tour, and gotten involved in diplomacy, they would have been all over him for violating the Constitution, federal law. Yeah. But not a word is raised about conservative Republicans doing that.
And in fact, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know. It's set up. I don't know. Republicans, I think, are just. I don't know. They're sort of. This has just been a weird campaign, and I don't know. The GOP may not come out of this alive. I don't know if they do or not. But it's going to be weird going down the stretch. From the chat room, we get to ask Kelly about her new bike. I guess.
Yeah. One of my neighbors and got a brand new multi-speed mountain bike, and he gave me his old one.
Awesome.
Which is in really good shape.
Yep.
I do need the chain needs to be re-greased, so I'm probably going to do that with WD-40 because it'll also help stop the rust. I need to lower the seat, get a helmet and gloves, and then I am good to go biking across the park to work. Yeah, it's a really nice looking bike. It's got good. The tires are in really. It's got new tires on it. It's a really great bike.
Awesome.
The seat might need to be replaced because it's sort of like splitting. But we'll see
these
about
are minor things. Minor expenses when you're talking about buying a whole brand new bike. So that's pretty cool. You can just ride across the park.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey. Oh yeah, of course we're coming to you live from Manhattan. So you get sirens in the back.
And even if I've got a window slightly cracked because I'm an asthmatic and I need to keep an airflow in here. So but even if this window was closed, you'd still hear that siren.
Oh yeah. You would.
And I'm like way down the block, but New York City is not a city of streets, but a city of canyons.
Pretty much just like on TV, nonstop, 24/7 sirens somewhere in the city.
And so I've got. It's a really nice looking bike. It is a Mountain Fury. It is. I'm sorry, I was looking away from the mic, so you probably couldn't hear me. The bike is a Mountain Fury Roadmaster.
There you go. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, it'll save you, 10, 15 minutes right there.
Well, it'll save me money.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah.
And there won't be a problem. I can take it right in. I was asking about it, and security. I can take it right down into the warehouse where our personal stuff is stored, so it's not on the floor,
Right.
and it'll be fine and dandy. So I don't have to worry about so I will have to get a lock for it, but I won't have to have a lock when I'm at work because it won't be
right
outside, which is great. I love this.
Awesome.
So between this and my inline skates,
you're in business.
You know, I should be in business along with a hinged knee brace for my knee.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it. I'm looking to at least appearing to be several pounds lighter by the time we get to
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Meet me in St. Louis. Meet me at the fair.
Going to try to get there for the Wednesday night festivities there for the kickoff event for the Bill of Parliament.
So there's a New York City Coast meetup tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, go to that if you can. Of course, Network Radio will reimburse, but if you can get to that, go to that.
Yeah, I'm already set up for that with that. I'll be going in the morning, then I'll be going to work. Because I want to need to hang out with people.
Awesome. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I hear you.
For those of you who don't know, Daily Coast itself does not sponsor these meetups. It's just like, somebody decides, hey, let's get together with our fellow Cossacks and in this area, and it's like New York City, or it's going to be wherever you live, and it's a great way to meet people. It gets you out of your head because you don't really talk about anything. We're just sitting around eating.
That's fine.
Eating, just hanging out. And so it's a lot. It's really nice to get out and just get around. Especially me. I have an issue with going outside because I had been chronically homeless for about 5 years. So going outside to me is kind of a bunchy thing. I only tend to go out when I absolutely have to, which is not good either. I have a roof over my head. I'm going to stay indoors and keep it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's So I'm looking forward to.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Kicks off I've got some time tomorrow or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, my work schedule is flexible enough that you say, well, I have this happening. Can I work from this time to this time? And my manager will say, yeah, as long as I'm there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I work for a great company, and
yeah, it works out good.
Yeah.
Because you still catch the bus to work,
It's straight across town. I mean, I can either walk, take a bus, or once I get my helmet and gloves, I can bike. So I've got all these great options.
Yeah.
It's a little on the chilly side for me to walk because that's kind of like triggering. I hate that word, but it kind of weird. Having to walk to work was something I had to do when I was homeless and was living in the shelter because I never had enough money for the bus.
Right.
I did not. Walking to work from the shelter on the east side was not a big deal because the weather was good, and I'd have a nice walk down to 23rd and 6th for work, and it was I was able to get out of my head, and just going cross town on the bus does the same thing for me.
Yeah,
because it's like I'm breaking out of my neighborhood, which a lot of people don't. New York's kind of like this. Has little invisible walls where people do not leave their neighborhoods.
Right.
There are people that spend their whole life in their neighborhood.
Yep.
I had a friend when I was when I first got here, living at the 92nd Street Y, and at one point, we're chatting and everything, and this was several years after we both had moved out. We're like in our own space. Goes, do you want to, and she was thinking about, me, her, and another person were thinking about going up to see a mutual friend up that we had met at the 92nd Street Y up in Toronto. And she suddenly decided she didn't want to go because she didn't want to, leave New York.
Right. Right.
Excuse me.
Yeah, or the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh. Bloody annoying.
Yeah. Toronto's quite a hike from New York. It's a good.
Well, we were gonna. I think we were gonna take the train up or something like that. But I don't remember exactly, but it was pretty well. We were just, and she just decided, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave New York. Want to go visit, come home with my friend, blah, blah. She's got a car, and I'm thinking, big deal. I went through 3 in 1 year.
Yeah.
And not because I was a bad driver. The cars just died. Just frickin' up and died.
So there you go.
But hey, how many people can say that their car got a jump start from John Davidson's car?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was so much fun. And so I'm. Can you tell I'm still all wired up from work, so I'm probably going to be going back to my 4 hours of sleep. I'm good this way.
Yeah.
And,
it'll all work out.
Yeah.
It's all good.
So what's been going on with you up in your freezing ass
cold
part of New York
snowing
City?
Out there. It's just been. It's been, the last couple of days have been pretty good, but we're going to get a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of snow overnight tonight and throughout the day tomorrow.
Yeah. So I trust, you're all set and ready to go. And
yeah, got the shovel standing by, so I'm ready to go. I'm good to go. But not much politically is happening at the moment, but that will change quickly.
Well, that's because it's got a respite. Oh, there's a debate tomorrow evening. Bernie and Hillary are debating. Actually debating, a real live debate.
Yep.
Where policies actually get discussed.
Right.
The other night, a friend of mine, funny man by the name of Jeff Chrysler, and a blogger by the name of Rude Pundit, did commentary on the Republican sideshow.
Right.
And it was pretty hilarious. Both of them are going to have heart attacks. It's like, oh, geez. So I did not. I just listened to them and tried to figure out what was going on in the debates. But what's great when you've got a running commentary, you don't need to listen to these fools because you can tell what they're saying by how they react, by how the commentators are responding to it. And I don't blame Rand Paul for not going to what is called the kiddie debate.
No,
except for the fact that is actually the debate for vice president candidate.
Yeah, pretty much.
Running mate.
At this point, yeah.
Because there is not one of those fools on the main stage that is going to be willing to submit their ego to whomever Donald Trump gets the nomination.
Right. So that's the VP debates, essentially, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And I think Rand Paul is well aware that is exactly what those debates are. It's about who is going to be the running mate. And it looks like it's going to be Carly Fiorina because she's playing Pitbull. She's the attack.
I guess. Plus
she's the attack
female,
feature.
So yeah. There's some things help on. I don't know.
But you know what their entire campaigns are going to be? They are appealing to the base, primitive instinct of their right-wing base. Tribalism, fear, been doing some research on this because I will be doing a podcast on it about it. Yeah, and the
Cliff.
Well, the whole thing is that
all of that.
We're actually our political parties are now sort of split, much like our brains. And you could sort of look at independents like Bernie Sanders as that middle bridge between the reptilian primitive brain and the modern brain that is focused, based in logic, as opposed to the one that's just based on instinct.
It's going to be fun. Those debates should be pretty good.
Yeah. And this is how Trump does it. Trump's a salesman, so it really doesn't matter what he says because he knows what works psychologically, because he blithers on until he makes a point about X, Y, or Z, and then he hammers that point. Listening to Stephanie Miller, they make jokes about his repetition, but that's part of salesmanship. You repeat what you want them to remember. So he talks about their pain points, jobs going, this, that, how much pain will be inflicted on them if he doesn't get elected. If you listen to him, he's this is how marketers do it for getting somebody to buy your product. Quote, there are specific marketing techniques you can use for captivation. These include tapping into your audience's pain points, appeal to their innate selfishness, demonstrate importance through contrast, emphasize value, tangibility, focus on beginning and end, use visual metaphor, and strike an emotional chord.
There you go.
Donald Trump is the end all and be all. Everybody else are losers compared to him.
Right.
He's appealing to their, he's appealing to their instincts that say, I am the product you want to buy.
Yep.
And you'll have buyer's remorse if you go for these other folks. And he's going after Cruz rather, because Cruz is beating him in polls, and he cannot bear that.
Yeah, it's hard. You got to be careful when you're dancing around that game, though, because
So and this I'm going to continue reading here, but this portion of this article, and it's called 7 Ways to Engage Your Customers' Reptilian Brain, and it's from a website called Neuromarketing.
Yeah.
So it's and actually this section is titled How to Reach the Reptilian Brain with Your Value Proposition. You don't necessarily need to threaten your audience's immediate survival to grab their attention, although that will work. So that is what Trump does. First thing he does is say, hey, look, this is what's going to happen. He makes it clear that their bigoted way of life is going to come to an end, and that their impoverished way of life is going to come to an end and become better if you elect a Democrat. And a lot of people find the improvement in their living situation a threat. It's why you have people it's like people who win the lottery and then find themselves, deeper in debt than they were before, because they can't. Money is a threat to them. They don't know what to do with it, so
Right.
Okay, the first is, and Tony Robbins also speaks to this in his seminars about, pain. You don't change until something becomes so painful you have to, because that pain begins to threaten your survival and you have to make a change. The reptilian brain is more concerned with avoiding pain as a means of survival than it is with gaining pleasure. As a result, talking about the direct benefits of your product will not immediately grab people at first. Progressives, liberals, real conservatives, not these people passing themselves off as that. They will talk to you logically like an adult and say, well, support this, and this is what you will get in return. This is how, that's why the first thing that was done upon President Obama's election was an immediate attack on the hope and change and improving everybody's, living status here in America. Because it's easier to control people when they're in pain, because you can dangle pleasure in front of them, and they will move towards whatever you want them to do. Like, hey, we'll take us back. All these minority people, they're a threat to us. We'll take you back to the 1950s, where everybody knew their place, and you could exclude people out of your country club, and hiring, and you could have quotas in school, in universities. And you could refuse to hire somebody on the basis of something as flimsy as their religion. The second thing that Trump does, and this is the appeals to their to the bases, and that is such an appropriate word for the people that support Trump in more ways than one. They're just not the foundation of Trump's rise, but they're also based in the fact that they are ignorant little human beings, which is how Shakespeare. Whoop. Hey there you are.
Yes, yes.
And I just kept blithering without even realizing that you weren't even that you would drop the call. Right. So we're really good, because I'm not staring at the Skype interface.
Right.
But I was saying when we dropped is that the reptilian brain is self-centered, again, because it's survival oriented, and this is also most likely where people think about the reptilian aliens that control everything. Right. In a way, the reptilians do control everything, because that is your very primitive survival reproduction section of your brain. Tribal, okay?
Well, I mean, GOP is loaded with that. There's no doubt about it. That's where they're at, pretty much.
And then what Trump does is demonstrate through contrast. I wouldn't pay this guy because this microphone's a piece of crap, as opposed to the people that set it up will pay this guy. See, I'm the superior being because I don't pay for crap work. Bullshit. I was working as a temp legal secretary for a real estate lawyer when Trump Tower, 1 Columbus Circle, was being built. And Trump, you couldn't go in with a mortgage. You had to pay in full at the time of closing. And yet there were people that were going in and looking at these units and saying work has to be done. This shoddy work. I never heard anything about Trump not paying the guys that did the construction and interiors for those apartments where the cabinetry was shit and had to be replaced.
Right.
And this was somebody who was saying, I won't hold, and because of that he was and at that point I realized that he was cash poor if he was saying no mortgages. You have to pay it in full. You have to have that cash. You have to have that give that check to me, because he had no liquid assets. Right. Several of his properties are part of if you're into using real estate investment as sort of like a trust account for retirement, make sure they don't have any Trump properties, because at one point there were liens on some of his casinos, on some of his stuff.
Yep.
Can't sell it if there's a lien on it, because it fucks up the title.
Yes, it does. It's got to be lien free.
Yeah. He also shows, tangible value. And also the reason why there's a very limited vocabulary used and why there no big words are used is not because the people that support Trump and some of these other candidates like Rubio and Cruz are dumb. They're not. It's just because that the words they use are simple, because they go right into that primitive portion of the brain. So you always hear the same words over and over and over and over again, coming out of the mouths of every person on the extreme right. From these seditious assholes, who are still fighting the Vietnam War on so many parts, and some of whom missed the yippie phase of their lives up in the Malheur Wildlife Refuge.
Right.
To the people that support Donald Trump. And there are some intelligent people that support Donald Trump, but you get confused as to, but they're smarter than that. Yes, they are, but the words being used to get to their support are few and simple, and appeals to that more primitive portion of our psyche, of our brains, of our
oh yeah, they're on message. There's no doubt about that. They stay right on message. And keep it simple.
And the quote here is, "The reptilian brain only understands a few words at most. The optic nerve goes directly to the reptilian brain, and so it is primarily influenced by visual images." That is why Westboro is so, has all this, because they're very aware of visual imagery, even though they're not achieving what they would love to achieve.
Right.
Since the reptilian area is the rest of the brain's attention gatekeeper, this means you've got to be creative with how you communicate in order to persuade the reptilian portion to invest the rest of the brain's energy on you. That is what Trump does. He's a very able marketer, and he's marketing himself. He got all of these people to invest money in Trump University, paid thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars for, one-on-one sessions supposedly with him, and then, he gave them all the finger. He got sued and got the university and got his little ass shut down on that. He's crooked. But he's very good at quashing the bad publicity. I'm sure if there was a non-disclosure agreement as part of his divorce from Ivanka and Marla Maples, we would have heard all sorts of shit coming out of them from those ladies about his behavior and what he is like off stage. Although what's rather frightening is that his son was, saying we support him, has daddy's speech patterns. He has modeled himself so thoroughly on his father that he even talks like him.
Yeah, but that's kind of normal, though. A lot of people do that.
Not to the extent where he uses the same phrasing.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Here's how the author of this article suggests how you can use that last piece of information I just gave you. Use simple and short sentences if you need to use words. Focus on imagery that demonstrates the value you are proposing in a way that feels real, concrete, and or familiar. I'm blue collar just like you, even though I got $1 billion. Assume that your consumer will be skeptical in your claims and that you need to prove it to them by providing evidence. Show the customer that there will be more value than cost. If you're communicating about your product in person or on camera to the consumer, use props wherever you can to help them visualize what you are saying, which is what Trump does when he's speechifying. Yeah, show a quick demonstration of your product. Help them to see how they could use your product to alleviate pain in some way or multiple ways. Escort him out. Grab his coat. Beat the shit out of him. He's demonstrating his product. I am an authoritarian and you love me for that. You will do what I tell you to do. I got white supremacists, supporting me. Yes, that's really good for me. Because if I lose, all hell is going to be unleashed. And people are actually now talking about, what will happen if Trump does not get the nomination at the convention. What will the white supremacists do? Will we see a replay of Chicago '68 inside the Republican convention hall, where instead of police beating people up, it's going to be white supremacists beating the shit out of people on camera? And for those of you that are too young to remember this, in 1968, during the Chicago, during the Democratic National Convention, in which sadly Hubert Humphrey got the nomination, which is why we got Richard Nixon as president, there was protesters outside of the convention hall in Chicago, but Daley staged a police riot in the hall itself, and the cops beat up Dan Rather on camera. If I remember correctly, in '68. And then you had the riots out front.
It was 1968, give or take.
When you had the famous, do a search on the Chicago 7. Abby Hoffman and 6 other people were put on trial for inciting the riot at that point.
Yes. Yep. Good year. 1968 was a good year. A lot of action, a lot of activity, and most of it anti-war. And some pretty good tunage come out of that year, too. So not bad. Overall, pretty good year, except, of course, MLK got killed that year, and so did Kennedy.
Well, that was Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Yep.
Martin Luther King was assassinated.
Yeah. Other than that,
it was pretty hellish, It
was a pretty
but it was
active
necessary.
year
But that's also when the Pentagon realized that they can't show video of what is actually going on in a war zone.
Yeah,
because that is what turned American citizens against the war. Yep. And then you had the Hard Hat riot, which was instigated really by Richard Nixon. Where a bunch of construction workers descended on a peaceful anti-war march and beat the crap out of people. And I don't think any of the construction workers were arrested for that. And this is the other reason why everything is considered a false flag, because we don't see it in real time.
Right. But as a result of Cronkite and others, there was no more media in the wars after Vietnam, no question. That was shut out.
Well, no, that was because of, and when you get to the embeds, you can only, you're not allowed to,
Right. You couldn't show those images on the 6:30 news. That was
And it's also why um, companies that control the newspapers and television also had an absolute need to control radio. Because if you listen to American radio, you would say, who the hell is David Bowie?
Right, right.
You know, who are these people? Because you would think that the only thing that is around is hip hop, and really, that's all there is. I have yet to hear Adele on
right.
Because it was necessary to stratify the music the music on radio. Because by doing that, you can sort of like shut down the cross fertilization of ideas. And you can shut down musicians who actually have something to say.
And they did.
Which is why they had to really work at changing, rap from speaking about black life into, just talking about, fucking bitches and my money and all that shit and material, inconsequential things. If the first time Kanye West puts out a politically or socially conscious, aware song, that will be the end of his career.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think Jay-Z and Beyonce got a better shot at it, but it will be the end of their careers. You cannot be on the radio and be socially conscious. It just doesn't.
It's a pretty narrow formula, yeah.
It no longer works that way, which is,
It's not like the late 60s, early 70s when radio was pretty much.
Or even the 80s.
Yeah, even into the 80s, early 80s anyway, yeah. Right beyond that, beyond 84, so forget about it, but yeah.
I mean.
There was still viable radio even in the early 80s, but much beyond the mid 80s, forget about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean. The Eagles today could, you've got singer-songwriters and bands from the 80s and 90s that probably couldn't get airplay today because even their most benign songs would be considered, too much for the delicate, sheltered ears of today's youth.
Oh, no question about it. Yeah, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wouldn't be played. That's all.
Even college radio now has a playlist. College radio no longer has broadcast arts majors hosting radio show, running the radio station. It's professionals.
60s, 70s, 80s.
I mean, listening to WFMU, I mean, there are people, on that station that should have fucking graduated decades ago. When I first moved to New York, they should have been out of, But they won't even play, they have their playlists. And if they don't follow their playlists, they're screwed. So there is, so there's sadly no real place for up and coming, poets and musicians to get airplay, which is why you see so many people, busking these days. And not just the young black guys trying to get their mixtapes noticed.
Well, about all you hear today is whoever won that American Idol.
Got some of those, you got a lot of the people that, actually the winners of American Idol are the ones who really did not win, who came in like second because their careers have been like really good. But you've got Kelly Clarkson, I love, they're, but you see, you don't hear from them because they're singing pop, and they're singing the stuff that will, make them wealthy on tour so they don't have to worry about, not making any money from their recordings.
Right.
And that's what really,
Well, I think they get $1 million contract coming out of those American Idol shows. Maybe not. Maybe all they get is a promise to record a record.
No, they actually get the winners do get get signed and promoted and all of that, but they still make their money. Musicians make their money on tours.
Oh yeah, no question. Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's why the Grateful Dead stayed out on tour, because that is where they made their money.
Yeah.
Because discussing this before, that recording artists and writers, you can hear about this X number advance that they got, but for the book or for the recording, but then they don't see a cent until after that advance is paid back to the publisher or the label. And that advance also has to be used to pay for the studio. Sony may own that studio, but it's, you got to pay everybody else.
Yeah.
Which is why, you have artists like Snoop Dogg, the successful musicians have their own home recording studios, because then they don't have to rent the studio, because they can just bring the engineers in and pay the engineers.
Yeah.
Or do the engineering themselves.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Snoop Dogg has done the narration on a nature documentary, which I need to listen to, and I think it came across my Twitter feed. So you guys need to search on that and listen to it, because he's another musician that I admire, not just so much for his lyrics, but the fact that he gives back to the community. He's a good man. He's a good guy. And I mentioned this before, and it's, and definitely a great father, because you never hear any of his kids getting into trouble.
Right.
Or him, or even Snoop getting into trouble, or any issues within the family. So.
Yeah, there's that.
He's an amazing human. He's an amazing human being.
We got about 20 seconds. 25
I've been
seconds.
blithering on and on and on and on and on.
But yeah, it's all good. Back again, of course, next week, next Saturday, same bad time. And hopefully the weather's nice. We'll see what that does. See how that goes.
Yeah, but we can keep going on Spreaker if you want to.
Yeah, there you go.
You want to go for Spreaker? You want to keep up on Spreaker?
Yeah, you keep that running, and we'll be over on Spreaker side.
Join us on Spreaker.com after we say goodnight to you all on netrootsradio.com.
Yeah, we're out of here.
We're out of here. Have a good night, y'all. Netroots Radio. Yeah. So yeah, because that's the other thing I love about being on Spreaker, is that we can continue going, and we are going right now. So just so you know. But Ricky was talking about Fantasia, and where is she now?
That works, I think. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.